Some of you have been carrying this phrase like a chain around your neck. It's too late. Too late to start again, too late to heal, too late to dream, too late to rise. But I came here to shake that lie loose from your spirit, because it's not too late. And the most dangerous thing you can ever believe is that your time has passed, when in fact, your time is just beginning. I want you to lean in, because what I'm about to tell you has the power to completely flip the way you see your life. Some of you are about to realize that what you thought was an ending was only an interruption. And if you'll stay with me through this, I promise you'll never look at your age, your mistakes, your delays, or your disappointments the same way again. You see, the lie of too late doesn't come from truth. It comes from fear. Fear that whispers you missed your moment, you wasted your years, you're behind everyone else. But let me ask you, how can you be behind in a race that was designed for you? How can you be late to a calling that was written with your name on it before time even began? Think about it. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in history didn't happen at the start of someone's life. They happened in what the world calls too late. Nelson Mandela walked out of prison after 27 years to lead a nation. Colonel Sanders started KFC in his 60s. Moses didn't even step into his assignment until he was 80. If they had believed the lie that it was too late, their names would have been forgotten. But they discovered something you need to discover today. Purpose doesn't expire, and maybe that's the real reason you're here. You thought you were coming for another video, another speech, another voice to pass the time. But deep down, you know you needed someone to wake you up and remind you. It's not too late to start healing that relationship. It's not too late to break that addiction. It's not too late to go back to school, to launch that business, to write that book, to forgive yourself for the years you wasted, because the author of your life still has ink in his pen. So don't you dare count yourself out. Don't you dare bury your potential under the dirt of regret. Don't you dare look at the clock and think it defines your destiny. Your time is not gone. It's now, because as long as there's breath in your lungs, there is possibility in your future. And the only thing standing between you and the life you are meant to live is the decision to stop saying, it's too late. The first thing we've got to confront is this. When you say it's too late, you're not really describing reality, you're describing your perspective. Time itself didn't put a limit on you. Your age didn't put a limit on you. Your past mistakes didn't put a limit on you. Somewhere along the way, you convinced yourself that delay equals denial, and that's where the lie began. Because the truth is, what looks like wasted time in your eyes might actually be preparation in God's eyes. You call it a delay, but heaven calls it training. You call it too late, but destiny calls it right on time. Think about it, every great move in your life didn't happen when you felt ready. It happened when you least expected it. And some of you right now are carrying regrets like baggage. You think, if I had just started earlier, if I had just made that decision sooner, if I had just avoided that mistake, maybe I'd be where I want to be. But here's the problem with that kind of thinking. You're judging your present based on your past, instead of interpreting your past through the lens of what's still possible in your future. Just because something didn't happen when you thought it would doesn't mean it won't happen at all. Delay is not the same as denial. What if the very years you think you've lost are the years that gave you the strength, the wisdom, the scars, and the resilience to handle the very thing you're asking for? What if the reason the door didn't open earlier is because you weren't strong enough to walk through it yet? What if your so-called setback was actually a setup? You see, too often we let regret rewrite the meaning of our story. We tell ourselves, I'm behind, I missed my moment. But the truth is, you're not behind. You're being positioned. And what feels like wasted time will make sense when you see how it all comes together. Let me push you a little here. If you keep saying it's too late, you're giving your power away to the clock instead of the Creator. Time is not your enemy. Time is a tool in His hands. And when you believe that your purpose is greater than your past, then every mistake becomes a lesson, every delay becomes preparation, and every closed door becomes redirection. That's why you can't quit on yourself. That's why you can't stop believing, because what you thought was over may actually just be beginning. So the next time you feel that whisper telling you it's too late, I want you to fight back with this truth. If I'm still breathing, then God is still building. If I'm still alive, then purpose is still alive. Delay doesn't disqualify me. It refines me. And if it's not over, then it's not too late. Your story isn't finished, even if you feel like the final chapter has already been written. Too many people close the book on themselves long before their true breakthrough arrives. They see a failure, a loss, or a missed opportunity, and they convince themselves that the ending has already been decided. But what if what you're calling the end is actually just the middle? What if the pain you feel right now isn't the conclusion of your story, but the tension before the turning point? Every great story has a moment where it looks like all hope is gone. But that's also the moment when the hero rises. Maybe the reason you're still here is because your rise hasn't even been written yet. Let's be honest, life has a way of convincing us that our best days are behind us. Maybe you've been through a divorce, and you think you'll never find love again. Maybe you lost a business, and you believe you'll never succeed again. Maybe you wasted years in addiction, and you think restoration is impossible. But here's the thing, if your story was over, you wouldn't still be here. The very fact that you're breathing right now is proof that your author hasn't put down the pen. He's still writing. He's still weaving the pieces together. You may not like the page you're on, but don't confuse a painful page with the end of the book. I need you to see this differently. What you think is final might only be a setup for the most powerful comeback you've ever seen. The setback that felt like death might actually be the soil where something new is growing. And sometimes God lets the chapter get dark so that when the light breaks in, you'll know it wasn't your strength that saved you. It was His. That's why you can't close the book on yourself too soon. Because what feels like a full stop is often just a comma in disguise. Think about every powerful story you've ever read or every movie that ever inspired you. The reason it moved you wasn't because the character never fell. It was because they refused to stay down. They kept going when it looked impossible. They pressed on when the audience thought it was over. And that's why the ending was so powerful. Don't you realize the same could be true for you? That your mess could become the very testimony that changes someone else's life. That your failure could be the setup for a victory that inspires countless people. So I want to tell you today, your story isn't finished. Your pain isn't wasted. Your mistakes don't get the final word. You are still in motion, and the ink is still wet on the page of your life. And if the author hasn't stopped writing, then neither should you stop believing. Don't turn the page too soon. You might be one sentence away from the breakthrough you've been praying for. Just because something hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it never will. Delay doesn't mean denial. But so often we treat the waiting season like a rejection slip. We think that because the opportunity hasn't opened, because the relationship hasn't healed, because the dream hasn't materialized, that it must not be for us. And the danger with that mindset is it causes us to walk away from what was always meant to be ours. Waiting is not wasted. It is working. Something is happening in the delay that you can't always see in the moment, but you will look back one day and realize it was necessary. Think about a seed buried in the soil. You put it in the ground, cover it with dirt, and for weeks, sometimes months, you see nothing. If you judged too soon, you would think the seed was dead. But under the surface, roots are growing, life is forming, and preparation is taking place for the breakthrough to push through. That's what delay really is, unseen development. The problem is, when we don't see results, we assume nothing is happening. But just because it's invisible doesn't mean it's inactive. Some of the greatest transformations of your life are taking place underground where no one can see. I wonder how many times we've given up just before the roots were ready. How many prayers we stopped praying because the answer didn't come in our timing. How many dreams we buried because the harvest didn't show up on our schedule. What if the delay wasn't meant to discourage you, but to strengthen you? What if the waiting season was the very thing that would prepare you to carry the weight of what you've been asking for? A blessing that comes too soon can break you. That's why delay is often protection, not punishment. You see, denial closes a door, but delay leaves it unlocked until the right time. Denial says never. Delay says not yet. And there is power in learning to trust the not yet. Because if you quit in the middle, you never get to see what all the waiting was for. That's why patience is more than endurance. It's faith in motion. It's believing that even when you don't see movement, God is still orchestrating the details. It's choosing to stay planted even when your eyes can't yet see the fruit. So let me encourage you, don't confuse the silence of your season with the absence of your answer. Just because you don't see it now doesn't mean it isn't coming. The promise is still alive. The dream is still possible. The breakthrough is still on its way. Delay is not denial. It's development. It's alignment. And when the time is right, what you've been praying for, working for, and believing for will break through the surface. And when it does, you'll realize it was worth every second of the wait. Purpose has no expiration date. That's a truth that can shatter every excuse you've been hiding behind. You've been telling yourself, I'm too old. I missed my shot. That season has passed. But who told you that? Who told you that the dream in your heart comes stamped with an expiration date? Who decided that once you hit a certain age or once you made a certain mistake, you're no longer qualified? That's not truth. That's fear. That's comparison. That's the voice of limitation trying to shrink you down so you never step into the life you were created for. But hear me. Purpose doesn't expire because purpose doesn't come from people. It comes from the one who created you. If you look through history, you'll see example after example of people who stepped into their calling long after the world would have counted them out. Abraham and Sarah were promised a child when they were past the age of possibility. Caleb claimed his mountain at 85. Ruth found redemption after loss when everyone thought her story was over. Over and over, the pattern is the same. Man says too late, but God says just in time. That's because the assignment on your life is not limited by your age, your background, or your failures. Purpose isn't fragile, it's eternal. Some of you are treating your dreams like spoiled milk. You keep checking the date, you keep second, guessing yourself, and you keep throwing it away because you think it's expired. But purpose doesn't work like that. If the dream is still in you, it's because it's still for you. It may look dormant, it may feel impossible, but if it's alive in your spirit, it's alive in God's plan. And the reason you can't shake it, the reason it keeps coming back up in your heart, is because it was never meant to die. Don't confuse timing with expiration. Just because it didn't happen when you thought it should doesn't mean it can't happen now. Some of the most powerful seasons of your life may still be ahead of you. What you thought was the finish line might just be the starting line. And purpose has this way of pulling you forward when everything else in life is pushing you back. That's why, no matter how far you've fallen, no matter how much time you think you've wasted, purpose keeps whispering, there's more. So let me speak directly to that doubt inside you, the voice that keeps saying you've missed it. You haven't missed it. You're not too late. Purpose is patient. It waits for you to wake up. It waits for you to believe again. It waits for you to step into the season you thought had already passed you by. And when you finally align with it, you'll realize that not a single year was wasted, not a single failure was useless. Every moment was leading you to now. Purpose has no expiration date. As long as you're breathing, you're still on assignment. What you call wasted years may actually be the very preparation for your breakthrough. You've been looking back at your life, shaking your head, saying, I should be further by now. I should have accomplished more. I should have avoided that mistake, that relationship, that detour. But what if the very things you regret are the tools that are shaping you? What if the pain that you thought disqualified you is actually what qualifies you? You see, you're not behind, you're being prepared. Every scar, every delay, Every closed door has been equipping you for something bigger than you can see right now. Think about it. If everything came easy, you wouldn't have the strength to handle real pressure. If every door opened the first time you knocked, you wouldn't have learned perseverance. If you had never fallen, you wouldn't know the power of getting back up. The seasons you call wasted are often the seasons where the deepest growth takes place. Preparation rarely feels like progress, but it is progress. Just because you don't see the results yet doesn't mean nothing is happening. God does His best work in hidden places. He builds warriors in caves. He builds leaders in deserts. He builds strength in the shadows before it's revealed in the spotlight. I know you feel like you've lost time, but what if time hasn't been lost, it's been invested? The years you thought were wasted may actually pay dividends in wisdom, resilience, and perspective. The heartbreaks that broke you are teaching you compassion. The mistakes that humbled you are teaching you grace. The setbacks that frustrated you are teaching you patience. You're not behind schedule. You're right on track for the version of you that can actually handle the weight of what's coming. Stop despising your past. Stop cursing the process. Stop labeling yourself as late when you're actually in training. No athlete steps into the championship without hours of unseen preparation. No soldier walks into battle without years of discipline and drills. No dream comes alive without a season of pruning and growth. And if you've been in a season of waiting, of frustration, of feeling behind, maybe it's because you're being forged for something greater than you thought possible. So don't throw away your confidence. Don't discount the lessons you've lived through. Don't let regret blind you to the reality that everything you've been through has been pointing you toward this moment. You're not behind. You're being prepared. And when your breakthrough comes, you'll look back and realize that not one tear, not one delay, not one detour was wasted. It was all necessary to build you into the person capable of carrying the promise. So here's what I want you to carry out of this moment. It's not too late. Not for the dream you buried. Not for the future you thought was gone. Not for the version of you that you thought had died under the weight of regret. Every time you whispered too late, you were agreeing with a lie that was trying to steal your tomorrow, but you've heard the truth now. Time is not your enemy. Delay is not denial. Your story isn't finished. Purpose has no expiration date. And everything you've been through has only been preparation for what's next. This is the point where you decide whether you'll keep replaying the past or step into the future that's still wide open. You can keep telling yourself you're behind, or you can believe that you're being positioned. You can keep counting what you've lost, or you can start preparing for what's coming. But whatever you do, don't stay stuck in the lie of too late. Because as long as you're breathing, there is still possibility. As long as you're alive, there is still a page left to be written. Your best moments are not locked in yesterday. They're waiting in tomorrow. Your time is not gone. It's now. And if you'll dare to believe that, if you'll refuse to let fear and regret dictate your future, you'll discover that what looked like the end was actually the beginning of the greatest chapter of your life. So stop saying it's too late. Stand up, shake off the excuses, and step into the calling that's been waiting for you all along. The clock doesn't decide your destiny, you do, and today is the perfect time to begin.